2021. Two parts to this workshop, so we have a lot of learning to do. Let me just review the board members. Online, we have Karen Perez. When I say online, I think she's on the TV. Let me get clarification.
She's on Teams.
She's on Teams, and also co-chair Stacy Hahn is on Teams, and Member Snively will be on her way. Good morning, Member Combs. Good morning, Member Washington and Member Vaughn, and our superintendent.
Morning.
Thought we'd start out with good morning and check out the color code that the superintendent and I seem to be wearing. So not that you all have to wear pink tonight, but so without further ado, I want to go ahead and put a little bit of time for our superintendent to introduce our growth management board members. You can see this is a tight schedule, and I gave you a little space there. It says notes, board questions, and just know that we are going to have a round of questions after the growth management, and then after the ESSER 1, 2, and 3 workshop. And Superintendent Davis.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Through the chair, thank you, Ms. Gray. Really appreciate the opportunity today to be able to speak to growth management and how that interacts with our community. We know that in so many pockets of Hillsborough County that we have more students than we have student stations, and meaning more class. We have more students in classrooms and availability, especially in the south region of Hillsborough County. Then as we transition to you look at in the centralized portion of Hillsborough County, we have more classrooms than we have students. And today to be able to speak about the potential growth that we are experiencing in Hillsborough County, at the same token be able to look and discuss where we are from a school district related to looking at any attendance boundaries. One thing that it's usually in education a dirty word when you talk about changing boundaries, but it's one that's we have to look at it related to making certain that we're fiscally responsible, but at the same token working every single day to make certain all the boundaries are really developed with equity and really allow us to maximize every classroom within our school district. So today we have Tyndale Oliver here with us today to be able to talk about long-term goals and vision for our work, and then get into a recommendation to the board to be able to seek assistance as we look at every pocket, every dimension, every facet of Hillsborough County to ensure that we have a thoughtful plan moving forward to make sure we maximize every one of our schools, institutions, and really engage our community about our overarching needs and how we have that affordability side of it. So I really appreciate Miss Amber Dickinson and at the same time Mr. Farkas for the work that they've continued to do in this process. This isn't easy, and we want to make certain that we are fulfilling their expectations from the board, because one of the commitments that we have is to make certain that we stay in front, a minimum of 12 months in front of the board and the community to just articulate what our vision is for this work, so we move forward in a calculated, collective manner. At this time, I'll turn over to Ms. Dickinson.
Good morning. Amber Dickerson, General Manager of Growth Management. Thank you so much for allowing us to speak with you and take up your very valuable time. So I'll be speaking as fast as possible because I know it's a full agenda. So first of all, we would like to brief you on the Tyndall Oliver Long Range Planning Update. The last time that this plan was approved was back in 2017, and we like to revisit it every 3 years to make sure that our growth projections are on point and make any adjustments as necessary. This year we actually rolled in an additional component, which is looking at areas where we actually have underutilized schools as well. So where we could maybe possibly repurpose some schools. The purpose of this presentation is to gather your input, questions, concerns before finalizing the plan, and then you will see it again on a regular agenda for final approval. The second request is a request for proposal item to hire a consultant team to review district-wide boundary changes as it relates to overutilization, underutilization, equity issues, collect community input to provide data-driven recommendations to the school board for consideration. Basically, how these two items relate is the Tyndall Oliver plan will be basically the foundation and structure where we'll launch off, if you support it, into the RFP to look at boundary changes. Also, if you support this effort, this will also come back to you at a regular meeting for the RFP component. First of all, I would like to thank Addison Davis and Chris Farkas for supporting these innovative, significant long-range planning efforts. We don't just let these plans sit on a shelf, we use them daily. So this data informs our 5-year work plan, and then it also supported the sales tax referendum and the increase of school impact fees. So this plan is very important to our staff. Also, I'd like to thank the growth management team, Renee Kamen, Matt Pleasant, and Kim Weber for their work on this, and thank the Tyndall Oliver staff, which I'll hand it over to in a minute, to Negan Camp and Steve Tyndall. To start with the long-range planning update. I will politely ask you to please hold your questions or comments till the end, just in case we answer your question later in the presentation. We are leaving ample time for Q&A. So I'll hand it over to Negan. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Negan Camp with Tyndall Oliver and Steve Tyndall there. We have a brief presentation, just really hitting the key findings. So again, Long Range's purpose is to help those school boards assist in their planning efforts, and it's a document that needs to be revisited every so many years. So the key initial findings are that the county continues to be a very high growth county. It's a young county, and then within Hillsborough County, South County continues to be the focus of the future growth. You'll see that 15 out of 18 new schools that we are projecting will be located in South County. At the same time, in Central County, there's a high level of available capacity and some opportunity to repurpose some of these schools. And the good news is impact fees are finally at a level that they are likely to generate the funding needed for these new schools. So if we start with elementary schools, this is the current conditions, and the way the colors go, the green is most capacity, darker green. As you move to orange, the capacity decreases, and then the red is deficiencies, like there are no permanent stations left, kind of see. And you can kind of see the current situation. The most capacity is in Northwest with 7,200, Northeast has some, and South as well. When we look at the next 15 years, we see that in the Northwest there is already a K-8 school program in the 5-year plan. That's the Manhattan. And then beyond that, we don't see any needs for new schools. When we go to Northeast, again, nothing in the first 5 years, but then the years 6 through 10, one elementary school will be needed, and then 11 through 15, another. And then when we go to South, the work plan, the current work plan already includes 2 schools. They are both K-8s. And then beyond that, we'll need 7 more schools. 3 of them are years 6 to 10, and then 4 more, 11 to 15, just based on the growth patterns we are seeing. When we get to middle schools, you see a lot more green for the most part, but then in the South, again, we have quite a bit red spots as well. So these are, again, the current conditions, current capacity. When we look at the next 15 years, there's that Manhattan K-8 still helping with middle schools in the Northwest. And then beyond that, we don't see any need for new schools at this point. When we go to Northeast, again, no need in that area as well, given the growth rates. And finally, in the South, there are 2 programs in the 5-year plan, and beyond that, we'll need 1 more, years 6 through 10, another 2 more middle schools, 11 through 15, altogether 5 of them. And then the high schools, again, it's Northwest has the most capacity available, and then there's some capacity in each of the districts for high schools. And again, in the case of high schools, Northwest, we don't see any need for a brand new high school. Northeast, there's really no need, except that the 5-year plan already includes the Plant City High School addition, so that's accounted for. And then in the South, oops, no, go stuck. Yeah, in the South.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, yeah, okay. All right, we'll need 3 of them, and 1 in each of the 5-year periods. So this table kind of provides a summary. Altogether, there'll be 18 new schools. These are the brand new full schools. In addition, there are several expansions listed there. And out of those 18, 15 it will be in South County. And again, out of those 18, 12 will be elementary schools, 3 middle and 3 high. And that kind of makes sense to us, given that elementary schools are smaller and have more grades. So when we look at, again, the county, the yellow highlighted area is really the critical growth area. It's mostly the southwest area. That's where we see most of the development and the reservations and future growth coming. The blue line, we're going to talk a little bit about that, is the potential repurposing area, which kind of blends with the growth in the southern part. So the repurposing area has a large concentration of available elementary and middle school capacity. And some of the ways that those buildings can be used would be the converting an elementary school to a pre-K center or a community center, combining 2 underutilized middle schools to potentially build a K through 8, or converting one to district office space. So there are other ways to use these buildings that may be more beneficial. So when we look at the repurposing area, you see that white area is that area, and you see more like I-75 corridor going through in the middle of it. So then there's that industrial area dividing that area. So the residential are west and east of that corridor. And elementary capacity is 6,000 seats, about average occupancy of 80%. And then middle capacity is another 5,100, and those schools' average occupancy is 60%, which makes us think that middle schools may be even a better candidate to repurpose. So this chart just kind of lists all the schools, gives you the utilization of it for future reference. I won't read them all. And I think it's like there. Oops. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I will turn it to Amber if I can get to her slide.
Thank you. So, we've heard a lot on multiple occasions from multiple school board members over time, interested in looking at all of the school attendance boundaries. So some of the issues that have been highlighted in the past are underutilized schools, overutilized schools, satellite boundaries, which mean non-contiguous boundaries, so you have a boundary with 2 different pieces, and transportation issues. In more recent years, equity, the efforts of Monica, who's in the audience, and school grades have really been on the forefront of a lot of conversations, and these all tie together. So our recommendation is similar to larger governmental agencies, to conduct an RFP in order to get a consultant team on board with diversified experts who have experience in massive data collection, analysis, extensive community outreach experience, in order to take on this huge task. If we as a district are going to take on this large of effort, we must have qualified manpower to generate the quality recommendations in a timely manner for you all. I say this, but many of you have all experienced firsthand, boundary changes are challenging. Change is very difficult for the district and families, so we want to mitigate all of those issues to the greatest extent possible. Some advantages of hiring a consultant is speed, manpower, quality, unbiased perspective, and professional recommendation support. Now to the big ticket item that's always on the forefront of every conversation, money. So we did research a few different districts that actually took on a district-wide boundary change similar to what we want to do. And the higher end was about $475,000 to do that. We won't know exactly what consultants will come back with as for price for this large of district, but we will bring that back to you all before we would move on with any plan at a regular agenda meeting. Also, I would like to highlight, even if a few of the recommendations that come out of this plan, you decide as board members, you can decide a menu of options. You can decide to move forward with recommendations or not. But keep in mind that even one of the recommendations could save the district millions of dollars. For example, if you have two schools at 50% utilization and you decide to consolidate that, that is a huge saving for operational costs. So just please keep that in mind. Also, boundary changes are often legally challenged. So this provides us with another layer of data collection outside of the district. So we hope to get your support on the RFP today, and we are happy to take questions on the long-range planning portion and the RFP at this time. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dickerson, and thank you, Steve Tyndall, and I'm sorry, I don't see your name.
Negan.
Okay, Megan Camp. Well, thank you. What you're looking for, and let me make sure the board is clear, consensus from us this morning that to move on, and go ahead and make sure that we're clear at what you're looking for.
Absolutely.
And Amber, the important thing to know for growth management, they handle more than just boundaries. The government liaisons, the planning, the things that they're responsible for is a lot of different things under their umbrella. There's a group of 3 people that are in that department. So taking on a district-wide rebounding process would be almost impossible to do realistically and to do it well. If we're going to do it, we want to do it well. The other part is to be impartial. We talked a little bit about that too. It's not going to be driven by Mr. Davis or Ms. Gray or anybody else that's on there. It's driven by an outside source that can give objective opinions. So before we went out for an RFP, which would bring, noise or challenges or things that come through there, we want to make sure that the board has said, hey, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's pursue that. And let's look at those options. And again, as Ms. Dickerson said, we would bring any recommendations back. Y'all will be responsible for making sure that you approve that. But before we did that, we wanted to make sure that the board felt that was something we wanted to pursue.
So, and then when you say 475,000, are we comparing districts our size? This is a possible price?
Yes, it's a slightly smaller one for Montgomery County, Maryland. So again, we'll put the RFP out, and once consultants see what we're, looking for, then they will give us a cost estimate, at which time we will bring that back to the board prior to hiring any firm.
And through the chair, I want to confirm through Mr. Farkas, we can use capital money for this. Is that correct?
We can, and the Montgomery County, Maryland was about 160,000 kids, just to give a reference point. So a little bit smaller than us, but it still was a very large district.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and Montgomery County is one of the richest districts in the United States, so maybe they priced it high. But at any rate, just
You never know.
you never know. So, board members, you're going to share your comments. I'll go right around, and then we'll finish with Member Perez and Member Hahn. They are on teams, so I want to make sure we hear from everyone. So among every comment you have in question, just be thinking about, is this an idea for this proposal, this RFP, if this is a direction that you would like to go. And I'm looking forward to hearing where you all are. Let's go ahead. Member Washington, we'll go right around, and I'll be last. So go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for doing a good job up there. I got a question on what is the threshold to close the school down or repurpose?
Well, there is no defined threshold. We do have requirements in the interlocal agreement about community outreach prior to making any decisions on school closures. But generally, I mean, from an operational standpoint, and this is something that consultants would dig farther into, but if we're operating a school at 60% or below, obviously that's not the best for operational efficiency.
Because I know in District 5, I have quite a few schools on this list, and my concern is if we do, I know you're going to be in the community because we need community input on this. We're not making no decisions here by ourselves. So my concern is, a lot of times when we repurpose schools, you're in that section of Tampa, District 5, and the parents can't get to other schools, and we got to take all of this under consideration when we do this. Because transportation is the biggest problem we have. And I would hate to divide the area up while my parents couldn't get where they needed to be to protect their kids or whatever we needed. So that's something I really would like to look at. Because I have quite a few of my schools on this list in the inner city, but they're above, most of them are above 60% though.
Well, and the goal is to repurpose, not necessarily to close schools down. As you guys are firmly aware, closing schools down have some requirements as far as what we offer. So it's not like we close a school and shut it down. But it may be that we divide grades up a little bit differently than we have before. Or, as in Area 5 in particular, there's a great need for VPK, for our early childhood education. So to provide some more opportunities for that to happen at some of our school sites where we still have the school operating in part of the school, but then we bring in one of the wings turns into a VPK wing or something like that. So that school is still there for our community to access, but we actually have additional resources. Now they can send their kids in a VPK center to that exact same school. So our plan is not to close those schools by any stretch, because you're exactly right. As someone who taught in a couple schools in that area, that's important that we make sure that those offerings are there.
We make sure we protect District 5, and that's a good purpose. I mean, that's a good point, because we have to emphasize that when we are talking about the schools, because a lot of people don't understand when you're talking about repurpose, they think you're closing the schools down, so we got to make sure we emphasize that, okay? Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Good point, Member Washington. Member Vaughn?
Thank you, and thank you, Member Washington. I had a similar question because we do have the percentages here, and I was wondering, you know, what a good threshold is to make that decision that a school is underutilized. Thank you both for this presentation, also for meeting with me previous to this so that I really had a good base for this presentation today. You answered a lot of my questions during our meeting. Some of the questions that I still have is, let's say we're talking about repurposing and doing early childhood education in a wing. I've had conversations with the superintendent about maybe introducing something new, Montessori style, something like that. One, is that still on the table when we talk about stuff like that?
Yes, ma'am, through the chair, absolutely. This is the conversation we talked about, bringing Montessori, being able to expand early childhood, to be able to look at a potential military middle school that would be able to focus on leadership, citizenship, and just to rethink about, you know, some innovative solutions for our schools. So it's wide open right now related to what we could potentially do for repurposing, but we want to really make certain it connects with the community and connects with the thought process of the students that are engaged every day.
Thank you. And I would hope that it would be maybe something that we're able to do if we're talking about repurposing as a district and not having to rely on outside private companies to meet those needs. But the next question that I had, so far I really support getting extra data and getting this report so we can make as many thoughtful decisions as possible. I know when we talked about it previously, you had estimated a time frame of maybe a year or so, and I know you've highlighted some of the benefits is that it speeds things up and it allows us to make a decision timely on the with that report. Are you still estimating, I know it's hard to say, that the report would take about a year to complete?
What we're going to ask the RFP to do is to give us a proposed timeline. I don't know if you've met my boss, but patience is not one of his strengths. He'll want it done in the next 2 or 3 months. I say that in a positive way. And that was a year to completion, to where we get it, because community outreach does take time. And while we said it's much quicker, because of the 3 of us or 4 of us decided we were going to go start taking piece by piece of the district and do it ourselves internally, the amount of time it would take to do that. So having a team come in and do the community outreach and make sure we go in those communities is why it would be much quicker. And the year we were talking about, and again, I'll have to wait for the RFP, that's just our guess on what that would take, is that the year would be from community outreach to recommendations to the board to action as part of it too. We already have a board policy that says that we are going to tell you a year in advance what we're going to do on any boundary changes. So you obviously would be part of that process if we engaged an RFP and engaged a vendor.
And through the chair, my aspirations, sorry, Ms. Holland, my aspirations would hopefully they can get it done by December. I know it's very aggressive. I don't know if it can. They're looking at me like, oh, we can't do it. But then that way we can start engaging the board and really start planning as January 22 hits, what the repurpose potentially could look like, and start being able to put dollars and cents around it and being able to look at different structural needs so that we can start. So, for example, if we're going to do anything with early childhood expansion at a school and it's a repurpose through a pre-K or 3-year-old program through 2nd grade, then we've got to go and make certain we order the necessary curriculum, the furniture, the outside playgrounds for the little ones to be actively engaged and involved in. So that takes time to be able to do it and a vision to do so. So my aspiration is that it would be accelerated but done right. And the RFP will let us know what they can and are not able to do to be able to meet that timeline.
Thank you. And then I just have 2 more quick questions. One, for the impact fees that we said have been raised, And I know you, Mr. Farkas, and I had a conversation about whether those have been rolled back with newer legislation that came out of this last session. Has that been impacted? Are impact fees projected to be lower than we originally thought? And also, are the impact fees, and I don't remember the exact term, where essentially they're buying into building extra schools going forward, the developers, they're giving us money so that when we grow, there's a pot to pull from, or are they actually giving us impact fees for the growth in their area? Can you help me understand the impact fees?
I'll let Amber talk to it, but to your point, they're actually giving money toward the impact in their area. Well, it's an impact fee to the impact they're going to make and the cost for building a school in that area. In fact, they have to pay towards a specific school. So we talk about proportionate share agreements and some of the things that we've
Prop
gone
share.
through over the past,
That's
those
what-
prop
yeah,
shares.
prop share.
The prop shares actually are for a specific school that we set that money into an account totally separate and can only be used for that school. Impact fees are a little bit broad, although impact fees can only be used for new construction, new student stations. We can't do it for renovations or any other purpose for that part of it too. So impact fees are only for new student stations.
So, yeah, the legislation, though, the adoption predated the date that retroactively went back. So our impact fees remain the same, which essentially doubled over the last year. And yes, impact fees are different than prop share mitigation, but developers that pay prop share mitigation get an impact fee credit. So they're all funneling towards new capacity projects.
Okay, thank you. And I only have one quick question. Thank you for the time. What would the versus, if we said no for this study, what would it look like, the process, compared to with it?
Well, if you ask Amber, she's going to tell you that she can't do that because it's such a hard task. We'd have to bites of the elephant and be successful in what we're doing. So it'd have to be area by area, small area to do it, and that's not the best way to do it. To be perfectly honest, you want to do it holistically, so you're not making changes and later on rechanging it. We've had an unspoken policy where we don't move someone twice within the same school. If they're in elementary school, we don't move them twice within that. If we did it in areas or bites and chunks, I'm afraid we might make some of those mistakes to do that. A big part of what in any RFP that we've been through in any management is to meet with board members. So I anticipate that if we hired a vendor, went down the RFP, they'd meet with each one of you individually and talk about what your goals were, what your challenges were. To Mr. Washington's point, to your point, and I'm sure the other points we'll hear, they're going to talk about what your specific areas and what your concerns are before we go out for community engagement. So board member engagement, superintendent engagement, along with our staff is going to be a big part of that vendor process.
Okay, thank you for consensus, Madam Chair. I would like to voice my support for this, but not rushed if it in any way compromises community engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. Member Snively?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for presenting this information this morning. I think it's really important to put it out there for public consumption so that the community's members know that we are continuously working on growth management and the challenges. And we've had a lot of challenges over the last several years in certain pockets, and it is hard to do pocket by pocket. It becomes extremely labor intensive, and it doesn't really get a lot of traction for the amount of time and effort that gets put into doing it bit by bit. So I would be a proponent to support having, and I understand the limitations that your department has with staffing, and I think the pros outweigh the cons when it comes to having a third party come in and create a study for and a presentation for our board and our district. So I appreciate the fact that you've been listening to board members over the last several years who have finally, I think, gotten to a point where that says, okay, we just have to bite the bullet at this point. We can't continue to patchwork district rezoning all across the county. It just is not efficient anymore. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken arm all over the school district. So the downside, obviously, is that there's a lot of pain when it comes to change, and board members, you all get to experience that whenever you are when you go into your community. Some of you have already experienced it. Some of you will get to experience going into your own communities and feeling that that bit of pain that comes with change, because people will tell you they purchased a home in that particular district so that their children can go to that particular school, and you'll hear that across the school district. The overarching challenge, probably more so than than that is the fact that all of our schools are not performing as high as to capacity as they could. And if we had all A schools, A and B schools, then it wouldn't be such a challenge to talk a parent from going from an A school to an A school as it is from an A school to a B or a C school, right? And so that is something that is on us and the superintendent to continuously work towards with our schools to maintain the highest level of achievement in all the schools, so that parents aren't having to make those really difficult decisions about where to send their children. But I wanted to quickly ask about UUU and kind of what the status was on. This is great. Obviously, we're going to get some really good information from a third party if the board decides to approve that. But in the meantime, we've got other issues going on with current land. We've got capital money to build schools. We've got land to build schools, but where are we with the county on infrastructure? Because we could sit here all day and talk about growth, but if we can't build schools with what we have, with the money we have and the land we have, then this is a huge problem in our school district right now.
Yeah, so through the chair, Ms. Nava, you said it well, and I'll pass this to the team. We've had some really major breakthroughs in the last 30 days related to working with the Board of County Commissioners in identifying that, and like you said, we do have cash flow, we do have locations, being able to make certain that we are working behind the scenes to make certain Collins, Waimoma, all of these elements are ready to expand, and especially we're looking at the new high school. Amber or Chris, you want to give an update of where we are from the high school's perspective? I know we just asked for consideration for that.
Yeah, and there's a couple important areas that we're going to talk about. They're not mutually exclusive conversations. The RFP that we're going to go through is going to continue to go, but on the meantime, we have Collins, which we're extending to a K, which is going to help Barrington and help some of those schools that are out there too. The high school, as you know, the board approved buying 2 sites. We own 60 acres on Bishop Road. We also are in final contract with 100 acres on West. And the Westlake property is one of the more intriguing ones that we'll talk. That's the area that we see for the high school. We have pre-development meetings that'll start with the county. We've already had initial conversations. To Mr. Davis's point, there are huge challenges from the county and from the school district. The staff that we've met together with Ms. Wise, Mr. Howadell, have been steps forward that we haven't seen in the past couple of years. So we're very engaged and excited about those, cautiously optimistic about what that looks like. But I will tell you that we've taken some steps forward. Dorothy Thomas and Collins are 2 examples of that, where the county and the school district had to come together, spend time to make sure that those worked. Both of us wanted it to happen, but it's a money standpoint. I mean, we've been in their shoes and they've been in ours, where if there's not enough money to go around, it's challenging as to where you spend that money. The high school in particular, I'll let Amber talk about, but I want to let you know that it is a challenge, but it's not from lack of effort. The number of meetings we've had, the number of conversations we've had, and their ability and their desire to kind of meet us halfway has been a big positive step in that direction. But the high school is going to be the biggest challenge we face yet. Just to give a reference point for some of the newer board members, an elementary school is our $25 or $30 million build. A middle school is about a $50 million build, and a high school is about $75 to $80 million. So the amount of money that we save, we talk about operational costs for schools. If we can optimize attendance boundaries, it actually saves us from buying a school or pushing that off or purchasing the property that goes with it. So there's tons of money that could go and be averted by doing that. But specifically about the West Lake property and about the high school, I'll let Amber talk a little bit about the steps that will go through with the county to make sure that we go through a pre-submittal process and go through that.
Okay, so yes, so the Bishop Road site was also a 60-acre site. We exhausted basically the county process for that, and they came to the conclusion that there isn't enough significant transportation infrastructure in the area to support a school use. And that is the same issue we're facing on the West Lake property as well. So we have 100 acres that could potentially fit 3 schools, depending on the intensity of the design. We do have probably every 2 to 3 weeks, we meet with the county staff and keep track of our successes in progress. And with Collins and Dorothy Thomas, those were wins. But we also are going to have a joint workshop between the BOCC and the school board at the end of September. And then we are officially submitting a pre-submittal application with the county at the end of August. So at that point, we'll submit the transportation study and all of the associated documentation, at which, when they deem our application complete, they'll have 45 days to give us basically the thumbs up or the thumbs down on transportation infrastructure. And then we'll see where we go from there and get direction from Mr. Davis and your attorneys.
Okay. I appreciate that. I appreciate the continual update on that as well. And then I just one more question, comment, and then I'll pass it on. As far as the RFP goes, I would like to know have any other counties in Florida actually done this, or would we be the first county to do this in Florida?
Well, we polled all of our best practices folks, which basically covers the majority of the counties, larger counties in Florida, and they did not have RFPs. And we also had procurement kind of put their feelers out to see if anyone else has done something like this, and they have not.
But you said Montgomery County had done that in Maryland, and could you provide the board with maybe a few other counties with like size or similar size that I'd like to see? One, I'd like to talk to board members from those other counties and just kind of get their feedback on the whole process. And two, I'd like to see what the return on investment is. What were the actual cost savings once they invested in something like this? If we spend $500,000, are we going to, because of operational efficiency, is going to get a return of $20 million back to the school district? So.
Well, we're unique in that of our size. So being the 7th largest school district, it's really difficult to find comparables. We'll put out more feelers, but thus far we have Montgomery County, Maryland, Howard County, Maryland, are both, Maryland's really known for their innovation. Montgomery had school concurrency basically before anyone, I believe, in the nation had school concurrency. And we actually just hired a planner from Howard County not that long ago, who she actually navigated that process with the consultant. So we definitely can find those contacts so that you can get feedback from those board members to see kind of how that progressed. And like I said, we'll keep putting out feelers to see if we can find anyone else doing this on this scale. I will say urban planning is usually not the highest concentration for school districts. So you all have a lot of issues, and education is your mission. Education is your mission, not necessarily growth management. So I really do think taking this on is a huge innovative step, and that we can showcase this as something for the rest of the state to follow as well.
That would be innovative, and maybe we can even check we haven't checked with the Council of Great City Schools on other large school districts that may have experienced some of this as well going through this. And then finally, just a clarification, because you'd mentioned where the money's coming from. So I just want to reiterate, this could be a capital expenditure. This money would not come from our general fund. This would not impact our general fund as far as our finances are concerned, because that's going to be the question that the public asks, is this going to impact our general fund? And the answer is no. It comes from capital expenditures, a separate bucket of money.
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that one more time publicly. So, all right, thank you.
Excellent points. Thank you, Member Snively. Member Combs? And, we have about 20 minutes, so.
Okay, I'll be brief since a lot of my board members have mentioned or asked a lot of the questions. When was the last time that we really did an overhaul like this?
We've never done an overhaul
We've
like
never
this.
done-
In fact, we did our last big board change, boundary change. We did about 5 or 6 schools in Northeast County. For those board members that were here, remember that, or people that were around that district, about how fun that was. The reality is, it's a perfect example, and I don't mean to take your time, but it's important to understand the Northeast County. There was a lot of pushback. There's a lot of people at the board that were very upset with the changes that we made, and we tried to explain to them about what it was going to look like from an equity standpoint afterwards. I will tell you, as someone who lives in that community, they couldn't be happier now. As angry as they were 3-4 years ago, the end product is that those schools, the principals are happy, the community is happy, that part of it too, but it doesn't change the fact that it's a painful process for the change up front. So that was the last we did, and that was, 4 years ago? The scars, I kind of that selective memory to forget about the way that went down. But
Yes, this past year was the only year in the 7 years that I've been here that we didn't do any boundary changes, and that was because of the community outreach issues with the pandemic. But every year we've done some sort of smaller scale boundary change, and that included, I believe, 14 or 16 schools altogether, not only in New Tampa, but in East Tampa as well.
And what about like large districts like Miami-Dade? I mean, how are they dealing with that, and how have they approached this?
well, part of it is culture of the district. There are a lot of, because we asked the same question. That's a great question. There are many districts near us, Pasco, places like that, where there's an assumption there's going to be a boundary change, or it happens all the time and it becomes a way of work. Now, granted, it became a way of work, and then Pasco was one of the ones that was legally challenged and lost and had to change the process while we have 2 hearings now. But there are certain counties where there's an assumption that's going to happen. There are other counties like in Hillsborough where there hasn't been as many changes. Most of our changes have been for new construction, and those don't get quite as much noise because they're going to a new school, and they're usually a little bit more willing to do that. But a lot of it's the culture of the district and whether there's been changes. But I will tell you, there's been legal challenges, as Amber referenced, to many boundary changes. Obviously, you want your students to not want to leave the school they're in. That means we're doing something well if they don't want to change their boundary. They want to stay at the school that they're at right now. We want to provide external alternatives, and as Ms. Snively said, you want to make sure that the place we're sending them to is as good or a better education than what they have right now. That's always the push.
Okay. And then just a couple comments. I really definitely, if we decide to move forward with this RFP, which it looks like we probably will, I'd love to see a very clear timeline so that way the community can be involved and engaged from the very beginning. I think that should come out right away. And also just being innovative. I think we're seeing that parents are looking for, when we say K through 8, I think it should be really pre-K through 8. Instead of saying K through 8, we need to start saying pre-K. I think that's really important because we really talk about our stakeholders, and if we really want to move things, we need to start very early on. And then one last, and I'd like to say that I'm glad to see that the BOCC and the school board is working closely together. This is really, really important. I'm glad to see that we're engaged with that. But also, we had talked briefly about, even though it's just on the border of my district, Steinbrenner High School, and I didn't see that. We talked about a wing or something, because I know that is a school that is very, beyond capacity, and places are being built all around that. What does that look like? Because I didn't see this in this plan.
So we did new school construction. So what you see in front of you is where we're putting new schools. In Steinbrenner's case, it would be a wing that we would add to Steinbrenner. So that doesn't include, and I think that you had referenced it a little bit, but it may have gotten lost in there. The only way we have to build only this many schools is because we'll be doing wings throughout the district. So Steinbrenner is a perfect example of one that we'll add a wing to. Timing on that's always a challenge. It will be in the next few years, and I will say few because I want to make sure that we're accurate with the people that we communicate with. But there will be wings. This fall, we're opening up a new wing at Spoto, a new wing at Waimama. Yeah. Those are ones that open up this August that are going to be there. Wings are going to be something that we have to be part of what we do. The Collins K8 is actually a wing addition with the gym addition. So you will see, and obviously the board approves all those, but wings are going to be a commonplace. The question is, how big do you want your schools? High schools being over 3,000 is a challenge for that part of it too. So Steinbrenner, yes, we could add a wing, and we will add a wing to Steinbrenner. You will see that as we go down the path. It looks like it's in year, depending on what we talk about. And part of it's being a practical educator, and part of it is being the planner. So Amber and I get to have these competitive conversations on a regular basis about when we add those wings and when that's important to do. I would argue Steinbrenner from a function is one that we'll have to do in the next couple of years. Amber says, hey, it's worse in the southern part of the county. So we go back and forth, and ultimately Mr. Davis makes that final call. So my guess is that we'll be having Plant City and Steinbrenner are two different areas that we're going to see. We're going to need growth for high school seats in that area. So I would say in the next couple of years.
And I just want to make sure we are definitely, it's very important, at least for me, and I would imagine a lot of board members, that we are not closing schools, and we are going to repurpose them. Because what happens, because I know what happens, but I think the public needs to know, what happens if we close the school and we decide not to repurpose it? What would happen in that instance?
So I'd say this, and sorry, Mrs. Combs, Member Combs, repurposing is absolutely what we will do in this organization. If a school district decided to close a school and they were not going to repurpose that facility, then that facility openly has to be open to accessible to charter schools. And charter schools have the availability to gain access to that facility. From our side of it, there's so many different innovative, fresh ideas that we can bring to Hillsborough County if we had to potentially repurpose after engaging the community. But we will always look to be innovative in those solutions and maximize every facility that we do have.
Okay, that's good. I just wanted that on the record and just to be reassured of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Combs, and I would engage Ms. Dickerson and Mr. Farkas, if you haven't been with all the new board members, the full throttle of land use and the prop shares and the complications that we're facing with the BOCC. There's a lot of background that their questions are coming from, so I would definitely encourage you all to meet with the board members. It's a complicated process, but it's coming up. And as Member Snively said, whenever we deal with boundary changes, it gets very emotional, and before you know it, you're going to be snowballed with all kinds of emails. So at any rate, we're going to move forward, and board members, just be reminded that you can always ask, if you have more questions, you can ask Ms. Amber Dickerson and Mr. Farkas. And of course, Superintendent Davis. We're going to move on to Member Perez, then Member Hahn, and then I have a few things, and then we'll go to the next workshop topic. Member Perez?
Yeah, thank you, Member Gray. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. So my questions have nothing to do with choice, okay? And I'm going to also direct it with regard to Member Shake's district. When has this district ever conducted an analysis of the students that are bused outside their district to other schools to fill seats in those schools?
You mean, do we know who they are? Yeah, we know where they are, which ones have satellites, and Ms. Dickerson referenced that earlier, making sure that we have and possibly eliminating some of those satellites, yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you an example like Morton. They have a lot of students that come from across town that are bused, and this is not choice. This is not the choice of the parent to bus their children across town to fill seats at Warden High School. And there's many schools like this. Leaving a lot of the schools in Shake's area, empty because they're filling schools across town in New Tampa. So has an analysis ever been conducted regarding how many students are bused out of their district, not because of choice, to fill seats in other schools in other districts?
I would say there is nothing that I've found in the records that we've ever performed that, but that will be a component of this RFP. And really, it ties into Monica's research on equity issues. And we actually referenced the equity policy that the school boards adopted because, as you all know, the schools reflect the communities that they're within. And then a lot of background equity issues have gotten to us to where we are today. So desegregation, things like that created those non-adjacent districts where kids are bused out of their neighborhoods. So that is definitely a component that we want to look at, and we've had extensive conversations with Monica, and she'll be part of our team in helping this.
Thank you, and of course, the magnet program was the very reason we have the equity thrust. Go ahead, Ms. Monica. Good morning.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair. So, Amber, really summarized it quite well. But part of what we hope this RFP is going to do is help us to take a look at the boundaries today that were the same segregated school boundaries. Remember, we were one of the last districts in the United States to follow Brown versus the Board of Education. And many of our current school boundaries and Mr. Washington can attest to that, continue to be the exact, they were segregated, separate schools for black students and white students. And in the 20 or 30 or 40 years of trying to make that right, through everything from magnet to all kinds of other things, I think there's a lot of positives, but there's continued work to do. And so we're hoping that part of this is going to also, because this is a national movement, there's actually something called the Bridges Collaborative that is looking at just that. Is, 40, however many years it is past Brown versus the Board of Education, I think 60 years, where are large urban districts in this work? So I just wanted to make sure that we all kind of have a little bit of that context and understand that, so that, and I look forward to, I think we're going to get some good information that will be helpful for us as a district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Today, I cannot co-sign on that statement because in Seminole Heights, there's a lot of upper class who are buying out Seminole Heights, and Shake Washington's schools are in Seminole Heights, and they don't look like our brown and black students, and but we still continue to bus out our black and Latino students out of that area into different schools. And so an analysis should have been conducted when, especially Seminole Heights, a lot of the property started going up in value, and a lot of the black and Latino families started being pushed out. That should have been conducted back then, but it still had not. So in Hunter's Green, I had mentioned this in a prior meeting, that Hunter's Green has a fund for parents who cannot come and pick up their children. It's a Uber fund. In order for, if a child gets sick, that the Uber will go pick up the parent, so the parent could come pick up the kid, and then that way the parent has transportation to come pick up that child. That's an issue when we're looking at this whole dynamic here. The fact that we don't look first at or analyze or conduct an analysis of our children, their boundaries, filling seats in other schools that are now overcrowded, leaving schools that are now looking to be repurposed, and leaving parents out in an engagement issue for our students. That should have been also brought to this to this board as well.
Oh, Member Perez, Superintendent Davis is going to remark on the analysis part of your concern. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Gray. Ms. Perez, you make a really solid point. One of the things coming in is the question that I had is, why are we busing students from Central Hillsborough to North Hillsborough? And those are particularly the biggest rationale why we want to come and make this concentrated effort to look at every boundary within the school district. And I said earlier, to make sure equity is in the forefront of that process. And to your points, that parents and caregivers, community members, and faith-based partners in the communities in which children live and interact and thrive in are part of the holistic process of the educational foundation. And being so separated from that process, it creates angst, and it's not a community-based solution and approach, which we have to get better at. As it relates to the ask, I'll make certain that I'll get with Ms. Dickerson and Mr. Farkas, and we will identify any boundary where we see that mirrors a way that Wharton is impacted related to the number of students that are pushed out. In additionally, I want to make certain that that it's a priority for us in this process, and we'll continue to make it transparent as we move forward. Go ahead.
Hunter's Green is a perfect example. Actually, we took the 400 kids that were bused into Hunter's Green out because of the growth in New Tampa, and we had to move those kids out. That was actually the most controversial one that we had, because we had people on both sides of that argument. We had families that wanted us to move their kids closer to home so they could go pick them up from school. But we also had opportunities and parents that pushed very hard that they wanted their student to go to school at Hunters Green because it was a better educational opportunity for them to do that. So it was not a simple issue for us. It was definitely a controversial one, but Hunters Green's a perfect example. Ms. Gay Holt, that just retired, who was a principal there, put forth a lot of effort, put a clinic at the school, had the fund that you referenced, Ms. Perez, to make sure that her kids got every opportunity they could. But it is a challenge for us. We've got McLean Middle School, we've got Wharton, we've got bunches of schools where we send them, Monroe and Madison and the southern part of South Tampa, where we do have satellite sites. That's what we call them, satellite. If it's not contiguous and they get bussed in, but we'll make sure that we get a list of every single, to all the board members, and Bishop Davis and Ms. Dickerson and I will work on that and make sure we give you a list of how many kids are in each one of those satellites and what schools they feed, and we'll have that to you as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. Thank you, Ms. Perez, Member Perez. Member Perez, are you in favor of this study, or did you want to think about it? We're trying to gain consensus.
Yeah, I just feel that, money needs to be put into looking at our schools, as to why part of our schools are so underutilized, and, and an analysis really needs to be conducted. And, the money used there before we're looking at building more schools. We have to really look at why some of our schools are busting at the seams and some of them are not. I just, that's how I feel.
Okay. Your point is well said, and to be continued. I'm sure Ms. Dickerson and Mr. Farkas will definitely take this under their belt, so to speak, and investigate it a little bit more. Thank you, Member Perez. Member Hahn, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. First, I want to thank Mr. Farkas and Ms. Dickerson and staff for the presentation today. I've been looking forward to this conversation. Given we're in a fiscal crisis, this conversation is really timely and important to ensure we're acting responsibly and efficiently with tax dollars. And I think many of the issues that my colleagues brought up today around finance and equity and transportation and school capacity all build the rationale that, we need to do a boundary study of the entire district. And so Member Snively's point, stop piecemealing this together. And to Ms. Perez's point, doing so really doesn't, allow to focus on the issues that she brought up. So I think that it's really important that, again, as Member Snively said, that these are capital dollars supporting the study, and, I would definitely support that. My district has overcrowded schools across the entire district, and I do also have some under-enrolled schools. And so I also want our community to understand that just because you have an under-enrolled school, and Mr. Washington made this point, doesn't automatically mean we're closing it. No, that's not the message we are sending, and that's not our intent with doing a study like this. It's really to make sure that students and families have the best possible academic environment to receive their education. I do agree with my colleagues that the conversation around boundary needs to include community every step of the way. So as Member Combs asked for a timeline, I think that's really important, and to share that with the community. And transportation, we've not talked a lot about that this past year for many reasons. The biggest is COVID, but I think we need to start focusing on that again a little more strongly. And that, I know, will be a big part of this conversation. My questions are really around impact fees. Since I've been on the board, it's been really challenging around impact fees, and it's been a challenging relationship with the county commission. So, Mr. Farkas, I'm really glad to hear that that's improving. But I know that the impact fees flow through the county commission, and they release the impact fees to us. can you talk about that timeline? Because there's never been a real clear timeline as to when they receive the fees, what is a timeline that they have to operate under to make sure that the fees are now released to us in a manner where, we can use them around these projects, because that's been challenging as well. So I'm hoping that's improved.
Specific example. So as you know, we're under construction for the WaterSet K-8 that's going on right now. They wanted to make sure that we had the workshop first, that we got to sit with the school board and the county commission to talk before they took that to the board for the flow through of that money, because we see it as a flow through. It's collected for schools that can only be used for schools. They said, hey, we need to take it in October. We want to make sure we have the meeting first. Well, Amber and I said, well, that's a problem. We're spending millions of dollars out there right now. We have walls going up. The slab's already done, that part of it too. So I went to Greg, to Mr. Hodel, and said, hey, this is an issue for us. We need to make sure we get this money before that, because we're paying pay apps every single 2 weeks right now, and paying vendors and paying our construction firm. It's going on the first week in August agenda for the Board of County Commissioners. I won't say for the first time, but I will say there was substantial improvement in their response to that request. It will be going in the first week of August to get that money and that flow through of dollars. But to your point, real quickly, Ms. Hahn, Dr. Hahn, I think it's important to understand this is a long process, but the challenges are real. You look at what we're looking at Sumner. All the principals got a chance to go down there for Leadership Institute. It was wonderful. But there's going to be 3,300 kids there. It's going to be packed. I mean, Mr. Nelson, the principal there, is going to have a full school that are there. West property, if we were able to get them to say, hey, go ahead right now, and it doesn't work that quickly, but they say, go ahead and do that. We're 2 years away from opening the doors of a school. I mean, it takes 6 to 9 months to design that. It takes 12 to 18 months to build that school. My challenge is, progress is great, but when can shovels hit the ground? That's a very important step and a very important thing that we look forward to doing. We have made progress, but I haven't got someone on a neutral or a greenfield site to say, yes, you can build a school right there. So the challenge is real for that. I do think we're making progress, and I look forward to them saying, hey, Westlake or Bishop is one that you can build on, but we need to build a school. The reason we have a WaterSet K-8, the reason we have a Collins K-8 is because we can't build a middle school on the Bishop Road site. We wouldn't have had to build those K-8s. We could have built traditional schools. So we have made progress, Dr. Hahn, but the challenge is still there. We look forward, and like I said, guarded optimism is a good word to kind of look at how we're moving forward with that. But we need to break ground on a high school. It's scheduled to open in 2025 only because of land use. If it wasn't because of land use, I'd open up in 24 or sooner, and I bet.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That update. My frustration has always been around the release of the impact fees. And, there have been times that the previous, it's my understanding that the previous superintendent has actually had to, after multiple requests for the impact fees, send a letter from our attorneys. Is there no state statute that provides guidelines as to the, time frame that they have to release that money to us? Because look, even with charter schools, they have to have 90 days. So do they not have to release that money if we request it within a certain time period?
So this is Amber Dickerson, Dr. Hahn. Great question. We actually just researched that because, as you stated, we've run into delays. I believe the last one was approximately 6 months from the time that we requested to the time that it's scheduled. But in the code, it doesn't state that the county has to release it in any sort of time period. That's not to say that, we couldn't maybe coordinate with the county to look at that, but I'll hand it over to Mr. Porter.
Yeah, so this is Jim Porter speaking, Dr. Hahn. Amber's correct, there's no mandated timeline, and the county had taken the position that they needed more information from us repeatedly before they would release the funds. And so it was a back and forth that was really very frustrating for us and had the effect of really holding up construction. There's been a change of leadership at the county, a change of leadership here. I think the county and the school district is working in a much more cooperative manner for the first time in many, many years. So you're right. In the past, we've had to sort of get lawyers involved, which is never good for a situation like this. But I think Mr. Farkas and Amber have done a great job of trying to coordinate better with the county. We're hopeful going forward that there won't be the sort of delays that we've had in the past and sort of unreasonable demands on us before they would release the funds. And we could, as part of the workshop, discuss maybe the interlocal agreement that we have with the county about this process, whether that would need to be updated or not.
You know, we've 6 months to wait for impact fee money. We provide them with a 5-year plan. We provide them with everything that we are legally have to provide them with, and we go beyond that. And so I would just like to see that the money, there is some time frame that is not 6 months, and all these blockades aren't continually thrown up, so we can receive this money. I mean, that's just good faith. I mean, it's a shame that we get to the point where now we're asking for some type of, policy in regard to releasing the money, because it's been such a struggle, because, we're serving the same constituents that they're serving. And I would just like to see more an improvement. I just don't think we have to beg. We should not have to beg for the impact fee dollars. Or, like you said, Mr. Porter, go to the extreme where we're sending letters from attorneys. It's hurting kids, period, at the end of the day. Thank you. I really appreciate the time today.
Okay, Superintendent Davis wants to make a remark. Is that?
No, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the push, because the accessibility of these funds really allows us to move and meet the needs of our growing community. So, Dr. Hahn, really good comments. I'll make sure I will continue to work with Mr. Porter and Mr. Gibson to be able to continue to ask in a manner that allows us to be fluent. On the other side of it, when we talk about the funding part of it, and with capital outlay funds that we're using for any potential builds, these are not to be confused with half-cent referendum funding, meaning that this will not go through any executive committee. It would be our funding that we present to the board to be able to move forward for that process. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Farkas.
And if I can just say a few things, because I know we have a big part of this meeting is going to be dedicated to the ESSER conversation. And I'm hearing, and I wrote down some notes from the board members' remarks, as always, very impressive. And I want to thank Ms. Dickerson and Mr. Farkas. You did an excellent job. And we can just see and hear all the wealth of information you still have to share. And but at any rate, I look at this as a big, let's say, a big pie, and there's a lot of pieces that we still have to make the pie complete. So everything from the BOCC, we are not there yet. We know that we're not there. We've been trying to get an appointment with them for maybe 6 months. I'm glad that you feel favorable, but I hope we do have the meeting in September finally. But that's a missing slice of the pie. Also, we did not get into, Mayor Castor in the city of Tampa, the new West River development. I think the board needs to be aware that this is a huge development with a school, maybe even 2 included, that hasn't been vetted yet in terms of, is it going to be public or is it going to be charter? Is it going to, what is it going to be? That's another slice. I also think the impact fees, thank you, Member Hahn, for digging into that. We do need to have a better idea, because that's another funding source. And that's a good thing. And we are going to have a workshop on various funding sources. Another slice, or I'm still staying with my analogy. I just got done with the grandkids the other day, so just bear with me. We're always talking about little analogies. The other one is this study is very critical, because that is the big piece that will bring the entire pie together. And inclusive, Member Perez, is the analysis. I have on the title here that I read, it says district-wide attendance boundary analysis. But those comments are very meaningful, because that too needs to resonate, the busing. Now, the question I had, beyond everything, and we don't really have time to get into it now, unfortunately, and it's no one's fault. It's just this is a huge topic. when we talk about repurposing schools, I don't think we can ever forget one of the ingredients of that is the magnet programs. That's afforded us the basic concept, Ms. Monica, wherever you are, of equity, but it does require enormous transportation. And when we talk about repurposing, so we know that there's a military part of the school, culinary, engineering, aeronautical engineering, such things as I know Pasco has ventured into, but we also have magnet programs. So I just want some clarification. This would probably have to come from the superintendent. Where do you see the magnet being part of the repurposing as we fold into that area?
Through the chair, it is perfectly aligned, because when we start looking at all of our initiatives, our pathways, our programs, our magnet schools, and looking at enrollment, all that's going to be a part of the process. This is what the biggest task that I've given Kim Bays in the innovation world is to do an audit of every magnet school and pathway that we offer and really look at the return on investment. Are we really offering, what we offered and opened up 5 years, has it grown and developed and flourished with the workforce expectations or the expectations of the community and students that are thriving in that initiative? Is enrollment increasing or decreasing? Are we continuing to provide sophisticated training? What grant fundings are we able to be able to capture, to reimagine every single year, so we don't copy and paste what we've done for 5 years in those initiatives and programs. So Mrs. Bays will be ready to start that process. It's going to be lengthy, but we have to be able to do it in coordination with this effort, so it makes sense to determine if we need to repurpose or move a particular program and rationale behind it.
And that's so important because, we always say school choice, and it's getting to be the talk of the town, but in Tampa, Florida, in our school district, we have a wonderful array of choices. And we can either build on it, make it better with the repurposing in your neighborhood, in your district, Member Washington, or we can continue to water it down, which is where I think it has been many of these magnet programs, sometimes trying to make small groups of folks perhaps pleased. But nonetheless, the equity issue in our schools should always be addressed and remembered as a part of our hopefully philosophy as a board and as a school district, to keep that and keep all of the aspirations of higher education, eclectic education, relevant education for all of our students. So that's where I'm coming from as well. The only question I have is when we get into the town halls, and Chris Farkas, you and I, we went through this when we had, I think it was Lee. When do you see, two questions. When will we start town halls for repurposing? And will we get a timeline? In other words, when we converted from when we converted to middle schools from from 7th grade, 8th grade centers, I remember Mary Ellen Ilya, superintendent, we had so many town hall meetings, but they were scheduled. And people really started to come in, and they knew where it was. They knew what to expect. They had their questions formed. It was stellar, and it was a huge change. So can we, Superintendent Davis, identify not only a timeline, but when will we be able to share with our constituents that these town halls will begin?
So the first question is and I want to ask this to Ms. Dickerson and Mr. Farkas, how long will the RFP take place?
Probably 4 to 8 weeks, depending
Yeah.
on how long we give them from time. We get to adjust that. We'll do it as compact as we can. The committee that'll be on there will have to have representative groups, administration, parent groups, that part of it too, which will be a big part of it. Part of the RFP process, and we heard loud and clear, was about timeline, to make sure that we process that, we share that with the community. So it's timeline for how long it takes to happen, but also timeline for when are we going to do the community meetings. To your point, Ms. Gray, and 2 seconds if you indulge me. As someone who's a former magnet school principal, magnet schools are a wonderful thing. but 90% of our magnet schools are in the inner city or in Mr. Washington's area. We ask kids to come from the suburbs to the inner city. We do not do that the other way, vice versa. The problem with that is that magnet transportation is about 5 or 6 times the cost of traditional transportation. If we're able to have some magnet school or choice offerings in the suburbs, the reality is they may not have to come in. I give Blake as always the example I use when I go to conferences. Blake is one of the best performing art schools in the country. There's no question about that. But when you have someone that is in their home in Lutz and someone that's in their home in Waimama, and we provide bus transportation to get to Blake for both of those students, it's an expensive school. It's worth it, but there's other ways to go about that and do that in a positive way. So timelines for community meetings, timelines for when the RFP will be part of what they do. When they present for the RFP, we'll require them to give that information. How many community meetings are you going to have? When will those be so that you can share with constituents? So
Right.
I think we got the consensus. So as soon as we put that out, you'll make sure we share it with y'all.
And just to reiterate, the RFP will be purchased with capital funds, not half-cent funds.
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
So, okay, and you have the consensus of the board, so there's that. All right, without further ado, we're going to go to our next session. Board members, you may have to use the restroom, et cetera, take a drink of water, and we'll reconvene in 5 minutes. Okay, good, well, it's not afternoon yet, but we're still in the morning. We are now ready for part 2, and this involves our ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, aka also known as the American Rescue Act. And Superintendent Davis, I believe, will be the star presenter. And Superintendent Davis, would you like to do the entire PowerPoint and then have us ask questions, or how would you like that to be divvied up?
Yes, ma'am. We'll be able to tag team this today and just talk about how we will recalibrate to accelerate Hillsborough County. So I would say that once we go through this, and then we'll take any questions that the board may have. And I know this is going to be extended because this is a lot of money to be able to spend to be able to help our schools, help our children, and continue to accelerate the experiences for every one of our learners. And the same token, being able to protect them in the working conditions that they are interacting with our employees as well.
Okay, so board members, it looks like we're going to have maybe a 20-minute PowerPoint presentation. Perhaps 15, depends on how much energy our Superintendent Davis has, and then we'll probably have to, it will get near 11:30, so we'll probably limit our question Q&A to 3 minutes because we have a board meeting tonight, etc. Okay, Superintendent Davis, begin.
Yes, ma'am. I want to hand over to Mr. Connor and Ms. Brown as well, and allow them to transition, and I'll interject where there needs to be some underlining or some highlights in areas within what we're going to do with ESSER.
Good morning, Ms. Brown and Mr. Connor.
Good morning, board.
Here we
so
go.
We have the pleasure, Tracy and I have the pleasure to complete an overview of the ESSER funding that is on its way to the district. Some has made its way to our district, and much of it is still on its way. We titled the presentation "Recalibrate to Accelerate." As you know, the superintendent, when he transitioned to Hillsborough back in March of 2020, had his Accelerate Hillsborough transition plan. But unfortunately, as soon as he arrived, the pandemic hit us. And so we are going to use this funding to recalibrate so that we can truly accelerate as we move forward. So how we leverage these funds will really be impactful for accomplishing those goals. So we're going to discuss several things today. The first being the funding sources that we've received and what the forecast looks like. We'll be sharing the budget planning guidance that we are using to make some very important decisions. Talk about the ESSER 2 advanced lump sum. That is a pot of money that we have just recently received and have planned out for expenditures. Then talk about the use of ESSER 2 and 3 and what those assurances are, as well as discuss the plan for grant project management. This is going to be close to $750 million in total, and will require some extensive oversight to ensure sustainability. So we'll talk about that. And then, of course, our next steps. I want to just start the presentation and let everyone know that all of what you'll see today is all proposed. We're meeting as a task force currently to make a lot of these decisions. And none of this is necessarily set in stone as we continue to gather stakeholder input throughout to finalize these decisions in order to do what's best for Hillsborough County. So a little overview of the 3 pots of money that were referenced by Ms. Gray. The CARES Act, the Corona Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, was signed into law back in March of 2020. It provided several funding sources, and within that was the Emergency Education Relief Fund for elementary schools and for secondary schools, which we refer to as ESSER. That ESSER 1 sunsets in September of 2022. And we have already expended those funds. For the second pot of money, which we are currently in the throes of the application process, is ESSER 2, and that comes from the Corona Response and Relief Supplemental Act, which was signed into law in December 27, 2020. It also has the elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund as an additional subset of that act, and that is what we refer to as our ESSER 2, and those funds will sunset of September 2023. And the third pot of money, which we're referring to as ESSER 3, does come from the American Rescue Plan, which was signed into law this past March 2021, and it includes another addition of ESSER dollars and sunsets in September 2024. So those are the three pots of money, and for ease of use, because there's so many acts and funds here, we're referring to these as ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3, so that we all have a common language and common understanding of that. In the first act, CARES Act, we received as a district, beyond ESSER 1, some additional allocations that were provided by the state of Florida. As you can see up here on the list here, several pots that totaled the amount of $16.7 million. That included our GEAR grant, which we focus intensely on our transformation schools with before and after school and Saturday school programming. It included free ACT and SAT testing. There were workforce readiness programs where we received $1 million to stand those up. To assist and aid our technical colleges, we received funding for that. We received materials and resources for training the best standards. We also received Medicaid relief funds. So you can see these different additional dollars that we received outside of ESSER 1 as it relates to the CARES Act. This is the overview of actually what the district portion will be for each pot of money. So we received in total for ESSER 1 $54 million, but the district, remember, we have to allocate to charter schools. There are indirect costs that come along with each of these grants. So our district portion totaled $47 million. For ESSER 2, we will expect $190 million. And an estimated, right now, ESSER 3, we still do not have guidance or exact allocations, but we are doing projections, and we expect that it will be around $402 million. That will be the district portion for ESSER 3. So what have we accomplished to date as it relates to ESSER 1? We have, as a district, received $47 million. That $47 million was expended on the items that are listed here on the slide, from transportation services to instructional materials, curriculum development, for instructional software, credit recovery, student nutrition, e-learning salaries, student and teacher devices, and Wi-Fi hotspots, PPE, and everything else remaining on this slide, just to give you an overview of what we accomplished with the $47 million of ESSER 1. For the ESSER 2 allocation, and this is where we are currently at as a district, we just received the application from the state last Wednesday and are working feverishly to fill those applications out in their entirety. There are several applications actually, because the pot of money has been broken up into subcategories. So as you know, we received an advance lump sum of $82.9 million. And we'll talk in a moment about what those expenditures will be. Now, the state for the advance lump sum, the expiration date right now, and I say right now because the state is looking at renegotiating that deadline, is September of 21, which would be in the next couple of months. So we were on a conversation with the state yesterday, and they are looking to extend that slightly so that we can make sure that we have all of our submissions in on time and those expenditures are accurate. But you can see the subcategories here. From non-enrollment assistance, we have $7 million that will be dedicated to that. For technology assistance of almost $9 million. Academic acceleration, almost $36 million. And then the remaining balance of $44.6 million will come to the district, and then you can see there what our charter allocation and indirect costs should be, totaling the $219 million for ESSER 2. So we're going to go back up to the advanced lump sum and demonstrate where those investments will occur. So a lot of this is reimbursements that we have done for the last fiscal year, such as the COVID cleaning team, the response team, the COVID cleaning supplies, employee COVID testing, PPE, the reimbursement of e-learning and teacher salaries, vaccine clinic salaries, water bottling filling stations, substitute reimbursement, unemployment reimbursement, external operator contracts, nurse salary reimbursement, and MERV 13 filters. That has totaled up to $82.9 million, which we have already been moving on to the grant to ensure that we meet the September 21 deadline. This next slide is the ESSER 3 allocation, and I put in bold up there at the top. This is an estimate, so these numbers may fluctuate depending on what the state actually releases to each district as that information comes down. We do know right now, we're not certain if the state may add additional subcategories to this, but we do know that 20% of ESSER 3, as according to the American Rescue Plan, has to be designated to remediating student learning loss. And then the remaining balance of other ESSER 3 initiatives you see of $321 million. Okay, Tracy will take it from here.
Thank you. Good morning, and excuse me, I'm going to start here with what our process has been to help us identify exactly how the funds will be expended. And we've created a task force that is cross-divisional, that includes all of our division chiefs and team members from their divisions. And we've been working quite diligently since early June. I think it was June 3rd we had our first meeting with the task force, where we've dedicated 3 hours per week to really look very closely at what the requirements are of the use of these dollars, as well as how we're going to be spending them, keeping in mind that our intent here is to do strategic planning for the use of these COVID relief funds, and that's what the task force has been created for. When we take a look at the timeline, you'll notice that with the timeline, we've spent some significant time talking about and trying to help the team understand the use of these ESSER dollars and the purposes and what the requirements are also. We've utilized several different forms of guidance from national institutes, along with the federal government and state guidance from the Department of Education. We've also identified high priority, high leverage investments by division. What we're doing currently is division chiefs have come through with their team members to present proposed investment opportunities, and we are reviewing each of those to prioritize how these dollars will be used. We will, if you notice, the final bullet on that last slide was we have to submit our ESSER 2 application to the state in a couple of weeks, August 12th. And so I have to, at this point, really acknowledge our Grants and Research Office, along with our ESSER team of one at this point. We've got Lisa Placco here and Greg Cannella, who have been working diligently alongside Terry and me and the task force to ensure that we do everything the right way. Here's where we have our assurances, and this is where we get our initial guidance around how these funds can be used. They must be eligible under federal education laws, that we also must consider coordinated preparedness and response efforts here in our school district, providing principals with the resources they need to address the needs of their students, along with activities that address the unique needs of our at-risk students, and you'll see something related to our at-risk students and persistently low-performing schools a little bit later. Developing and implementing procedures and systems to improve our responses, as well as training and professional development on how we keep our buildings clean and sanitized for our students and staff. We also the use can be for supplies and sanitizing materials and equipment, along with planning for long-term closure, which we do not want to have to do. So that's important that we be as proactive as possible. Additionally, this is a wonderful opportunity for us to address our educational technology needs, as well as mental health services and supports for our students and for our staff. Planning and implementing summer learning and after-school programs, as we've talked about how we not only remediate, but how we accelerate our student learning, as well as addressing any unfinished learning by our students. Our school facility improvement repairs to reduce the transmission of the virus, along with improving our indoor quality and other activities, and number 15 is a biggie for us. Other activities that are necessary to maintain the operation of and continuity of services in our school district and the continued employment of existing staff. And then finally, strategies for implementing public health protocols for keeping our schools open or for reopening our schools. It's important to note at the bottom here on this slide, Per federal guidelines, 20% of ESSER 3 allocation must be spent on learning loss. We have to submit a plan, and as I've mentioned, once we receive the guidance for that, we will absolutely share that. When I mentioned that we have used guidance from national institutes and from the federal government, as well as our local state Department of Education, we referred to the Council of the Great City Schools guidance, where they emphasize investments in staff capacity and human capital, investments in instructional materials and resources, as well as investments in student support services. The Hunt Institute also provided guidance, and we used that as well. Excuse me. And their recommendations are to address special populations. And we've been really intentional about including and being purposeful about identifying the needs of our special populations, training and professional development, along with sanitizing and cleaning facilities, technology, mental health services and supports, extended learning programs during the summer and after school, addressing learning loss, facility repairs and equipment, and of course, indoor air quality. As we work toward identifying the use of these funds, it's important that it's aligned with our strategic goals and priorities. And so these are the 4 goals that we have used to help guide our work with the task force. Goal 1, to provide high-quality educational experience to ensure that all students are prepared for post-secondary success. Goal 2, establish a safe, healthy, equitable, and supportive culture for all. Goal 3, develop a diverse and highly effective workforce. And Goal 4, establish fiscal responsibility and operational excellence. I would like to take this opportunity to say that we are absolutely working very closely with our business office. Ms. Johnson and her team have been instrumental and will continue to collaborate with us as we manage and work toward effectively using these funds.
So as we shared, using the guidance from the Council of Great City Schools, the Hunt Institute, as well as alignment to our strategic plan, we then began as a task force to develop priorities for the use of these funds. And so what you'll see on the next slide here are the 5 priorities that we feel will definitely need be the focus of these funds. So the first one being maintain safe and healthy schools, invest in talent and technology, support mental wellness, extend, recover, and accelerate learning, and engage families, parents, and students. So now we're going to jump into what those priorities, each individual priority, and what some of the initiatives have been proposed at this time. Remember, again, I want to emphasize proposed, as all of this is currently being reviewed, and we will finalize that as we get more input from all stakeholders. So the first priority, maintain safe and healthy schools. The task force met with the operations division and met with cross-divisional, actually, to determine what those initiatives would be. And as you can see on this slide here, we have about $59 million allocated over the course of ESSER 2 and 3 for PPE, for air purification, filters, cleaning and disinfecting, continuing to install our water bottle filling stations, our sanitation stations, which are within the classrooms and across the schools and across the district offices, and then nursing contracted services.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about invest in talent and technology. And I'll go quickly, but I think it's important to note that as we're looking at these investment opportunities, these proposals, we're always asking the question about sustainability. I think it's important that these are this is a finite amount of money. It is non-recurring, which means we cannot continue some of these things beyond the grant period. So we are asking the question about whether or not it should be sustained, whether or not it will be sustained, and how will it be sustained. And so that's something that we've been really thinking very, very much about. But when we take a look at this investment in talent and technology, I have to say that we have really focused in on infrastructure for our technology. We've not only identified staff and student devices as a need, but also the security, cybersecurity, to protect our data, to protect our systems. So that's been a priority. If we look at the next slide, we've also focused our time thinking about how we develop our leaders. And so you'll see Eckerd College Leadership Institute, as well as the Grant Management Office, as Mr. Connor mentioned. We've got almost $350 million here that we're responsible for. So we want to make sure that we have the structures in place to ensure that we are able to effectively manage these funds. So we have a Grant Project Management Office. Priority 3 is support mental health, mental wellness. And when we think about that, we also have other funding sources. We do have our mental health allocation, a categorical that comes from the state, and we have several $1 million there that we use to invest in mental wellness. And these funds will actually complement that, giving us a little more of an opportunity to provide professional development for our mental health teams, as well as for our crisis team, along with creating something that the superintendent really has seen work very effectively in another school district, which is a drop-in clinic, where we are making staff available to support students at least once a week in our middle and high schools that will be able to provide support to students and a place for students to go for support and to have a conversation. So that is a part of this, along with our social emotional learning curriculum and supports.
The fourth priority is extending, recovering, and accelerated learning. And as you can see on the next slide here is a big investment in Tier 1 instruction. From the guidance from the Council of Great City Schools, they provide a lot of insight into making the right investments when it comes to curriculum and instruction. And having a solid Tier 1 instructional core is paramount. And this is an opportunity to ensure that we do that. And so you'll see a large investment in our Tier 1 instructional materials and a large investment in extending and accelerating that beyond school, outside of school hours learning opportunities, such as our summer learning programming, which we extended. It was one of our largest offerings that we've had the past year. We will continue to do that over the next couple of years to ensure that we are mitigating the unfinished learning in our classrooms. And of course, even beyond just before and after school tutoring, large investments there to ensure that we give students the appropriate amount of time to address that unfinished learning. We know that we also have the best standards transition that is coming, and so we are going to do a big investment on professional development with teachers around understanding those standards and ensuring that they are well equipped when they begin the school year. And we've already started that work even now, and we'll continue that work over the next couple of years as the standards come into place. You can see here culturally relevant classroom libraries. Our classroom libraries need to be rich and diverse, and we want to put an investment into those. And so we've identified that as an initiative. Our STEM expansion, Larry Plank has done an outstanding job with STEM in our district, but we want to make sure that it extends to all of our schools, right? So we want to use this as an opportunity to accelerate learning through our STEM initiatives, giving students field experiences that they have lacked over the last year and a half, where they have not been able to participate in those hands-on real-world experiences outside of the classroom. We think an investment there is definitely needed. Again, a lot of professional development for our teachers and leaders, making sure that we have public-facing curriculum support where our parents are going to be engaging in this best standards transition with us. How are we going to support them? What resources are we going to give them to support their students at home when they're not with us? So we have identified some initiatives there. As you know, we have some pretty unique initiatives with junior achievement. We want to continue that partnership, so we've identified that as an opportunity. In accelerated coursework, making sure that all students have access to accelerated courses as they go through middle and high school. We want to expand those opportunities to make sure that we are providing equitable experiences for every student. We also want to provide some professional development opportunities for our non-instructional staff, our staff that is not necessarily in the classroom, but obviously need to hone their skills in order to do their job more efficiently. We would find opportunities for that. And of course, we never can forget the arts, the music, the PE, the health, all of those things that need enhancements within our district. We've identified initiatives there as well as dual language expansion.
So as we get to where we're engaging families, parents, and students, if you notice, we'll see Parent Academy there, and that's where we're taking the opportunity to help to educate our parents about the work we're doing here in the district, as well as the things that they can do to support their children at home. Mr. Connor referred to the best standards training for staff. We also want to expose our parents to the best standards training so that they understand what the expectations will be for their students' learning. We will also work on improving our communication to families and parents and to our students, along with the importance of student attendance. We want to make sure that our families understand that before students learn, they have to come to school. So we want all kids in school, and also working on ways to enhance our magnet programs. So earlier I mentioned the at-risk population, and some of the things that we've really tried to focus on is how we're going to support our persistently low-performing schools. I won't go into much detail with you, but it's important for us, because I know Ms. McCrae has a scheduled workshop to talk about persistently low-performing schools, but we have been very intentional about ensuring that the resources that are needed by our persistently low-performing schools are made available to them in a timely fashion. So we've prioritized some things that will include professional development, along with things to address the culturally responsive teaching, trauma-informed practices, amongst a number of things. But I also want to share with you that there are a number of funding sources that support our persistently low-performing schools. They have Title I funds, they have UNICEF funds, and they have TISA funds. So this is a cherry on top that we get to enhance the work that's happening with our persistently low-performing schools. For support and sustainability, we have recommended to the superintendent a project management office. And in this office, we'll have someone that will oversee all of these dollars for ESSERs 1, 2, and 3. And we want to provide support. One of the things we know is important is what is the return on the investment? So we need to be able to evaluate how effective all of these strategies are that we actually invest in. We will have multiple project managers that will be repurposed from different divisions based on the specific strategy that we have in place or initiative. And here you see just a quick recommended structure for the project management office. And you'll notice at the bottom we've got accountants that will help with these ESSER funds that will work very closely with the business office.
And with our new advisory, our finance advisory?
Yes, ma'am. I will state at this time that it is our hope, it is our expectation of our own work that we will be transparent and that we will flow everything through the superintendent and then through the advisory. Here you'll see how we've structured it to ensure that everything is cross-divisional. You'll see the task force in the center, and you'll see all those areas that are a part of the business office, special revenue and procurement, that will be very intimately engaged in this work. For our next steps, we will absolutely get stakeholder input. It is a requirement, and we've already created a survey that we will be making available to all of our stakeholders for them to weigh in on how they think we should prioritize the use of these funds. Here you see a sample of our new ESSER dashboard. This is just a screenshot, and we're really, really excited about this because just as we have been transparent about our referendum dollars, we will also be transparent about all of our ESSER funds. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for ensuring that this happened. And so this is just a quick snapshot. We will continue to work toward reimbursing eligible expenses to using our advanced lump sum. We're going to, as I mentioned, gather stakeholder input. We're going to, with the grants team and the ESSER team, develop the grant narrative and budget that will be due for ESSER 2 on August 12th. We will get the project management office launched, up and running, along with the website, with our dashboard, and we will always share our progress with the board, the staff, and the community.
Thank you, Ms. Brown, and thank you, Mr. Connor, and a special thanks to our grants department, Ms. Placco and Greg Carnello. I didn't know if it was Italian or not. It is? Okay. And I'm half Italian, so I figured it was. So, Superintendent Davis, a very excellent, comprehensive job. Do you want to go ahead and do you have a final statement, and then we're going to open it up to a question or two from the board members?
Yes, ma'am. And the biggest thing is the task force that's been developed around ESSER is really pushing our cabinet members, our senior staff members to come in and really defend how they expect to spend money and how it will impact children, and at the same token be able to build the capacity of our workforce as well. They did a really good job, and some of the items have been accepted and embraced, and some have been denied based on alignment to our strategic plan. So, these dollars are one-time dollars to be able to allow us to transform and to accelerate, this entire organization in so many different manners. So we need to use it in a way that not only addresses the mental health side of it, but really looks at, what are we doing to extend learning opportunities before, during, after school, how we can offer virtual tutoring through the entire day, especially for those who are going to be quarantined, being able to expand, ELL, resources for our students in an inclusive manner. And as Mr. Connor said, with the STEAM and STEM approach, being able to make certain that every one of our elementary schools at minimum and K-8s, pre-K-8s, have an opportunity to engage in robotics, coding, design, and to be able to problem solve. And the field experiences for me is major. Some of our kids have never been to the aquarium, never been to the museum, never been to the art museum. So we want them to be able to have these types of experiences. So when they're exposed to cold reads and genres, they're able to have that experience to connect with content and being able to be successful and be thoughtful. And the biggest thing I thought was this money allows us to regain trust in our community by activating a parent academy that really gets our parents actively engaged and involved in the educational process and how we help them not only while they're here in the four walls of our classroom, but how can we help them in the community and after they transition from pre-K to 12th grade.
And just so the board understands, and myself included, so these are proposals for the most part. You're sharing them?
Yes, ma'am, for input, insight. And, it doesn't have to all happen right now, but, it can happen over the coming weeks as we continue to wait for this money.
Okay. All right. Board members, we are reminded that we generally leave the last half hour for whatever you choose to talk about. So I'll let you all decide. We have questions. I would just suggest if you can limit some of the questions, and if you have any further, Superintendent Davis, Mr. Connor, Ms. Brown will definitely be available. So with the same order, Member Washington, and then Member Vaughn, and then we'll go right to Snively and Combs and Perez and Hahn. And then if we are satisfied, then we'll go into our anything you want to talk about part of the board meeting until noon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also, thank you, Mr. Connie and Mr. Brown. Very well. Did a great job on that presentation. As I was looking at the focus points on the low-performing schools, the one thing I would like to have done, and I think is very important, this looks really good on paper, but I think we need, once we start initiating these programs into the schools, we need to have a monthly report at the board meeting to know how well we are doing. I came in with 22 schools. I don't want to leave out of here with 22 on the low-performing list.
Yes, sir.
I want us to work really hard with these students so we can have success in these schools. Because all the time, this is great. This is really great, but we got to do it and get the job done so we won't have those low-performing schools. It's 39 and 22 is in my area. And I did make myself a promise to Shake Washington, that when I leave, I want single digits or less.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to be working really hard to make this District 5 one of the best districts in the county. So it looks good. Again, I like the to have that monthly report. I like to start as soon as possible because time is running and we need to get started on progressing so those students will be on top. I like the recovery because I know we have a lot of students in District 5 that needs to work on their recovery process. And I think once we go back to brick and mortar, this should be accomplished. So I thank you, and I'll be looking forward to making that progress in District 5.
Yes, sir. And through the chair, we'll make certain that Ms. McCray and her team understand the expectations. We have the same aspirations to be able to move the needle. We will move the needle, and we'll make certain that the monthly reports, we'll try to embed it in either in a workshop or we'll embed it into my superintendent's update every month to the board.
And that's such a great point, Member Washington, that we need to keep an eye on the ball at all times. Thank you for that. Member Vaughn?
Thank you. Since this is the first time we're talking about this, I do have some questions, so let's try to do a quick round robin here. First of all, thank you for this. I absolutely love the ESSER dashboard. I think that's fantastic. This presentation gives us a good idea. One, I know that you said, Mr. Connor, we got additional grants that helped us aside from ESSER 1, and you outlined those in page 7. Are those mostly federal or state grants that we got?
So those were extensions from the CARES Act, so they are federal funded.
Thank you.
Passed through the state.
Thank you. And the other question I have is I'm not really understanding. So for like ESSERS 2, originally, it was just we were applying for it. But now is it they've decided at the state level that there are categories that we have to individually apply for? Is that a change that has happened since then? And is that, again, being mandated at the state or federal level?
Yes, ma'am. Through the chair, when we presented ESSER 2, we identified buckets in which the $101 million came into. In those buckets, our role and responsibility was to, when we applied, is to show how we would leverage each of those buckets and what we would do for approval in that process.
So the state is saying these are the buckets and this is how you have to apply for it.
That is correct.
They're mandating how we spend this.
That is correct.
Okay. And for ESSERS 3, are they doing the same thing? Or we don't know yet?
We don't know. All we know is 20% has to be designated to learning loss, but the state probably could put more categories when they pass that money down to the school districts.
Okay, so my next question then would be, these are recommendations of the state of how we spend this. I've repeatedly asked for an understanding of how the federal guidelines suggested that we spend and utilize this money so we could do a comparison, since they are the ones who have given us this money and passed it down. Do we have that information in comparison to the federal guidelines when they enacted these COVID relief grants? They had lots of recommendations of how we spend it and where we prioritize it. Have we compared and contrasted that to how the state is suggesting we spend this?
I would say this. I've sent, you can go ahead, Ms. Lisa, you can come up here and speak to it. And honestly, it truly does match. When you talk about using for technology, looking at addressing the learning loss, looking at COVID expenditures, overarchingly, they do kind of link together related to expectations. I have sent every chance we get from ESSER information I send to the board, and that was maybe months and months and months ago, related to what ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 is defined as, and potentially 3. But Ms. Placco, you want to be able to address any?
Actually, Ms. Brown covered that.
It's a clap on, probably.
We can hear you.
Sorry. It's okay. I cannot find those.
In Ms. Brown's presentation, she actually covered that in some of her slides, and I'm not sure what the slide numbers are, but they were the assurance slides. So there were 16 items. Those are all allowable uses of ESSER 1, 2, and 3 funds.
Can you pass that us?
I don't know if you know the slide numbers that she reflects. It's slide. As the task force has been working and making their proposed investment.
Oh, I see these, yeah.
They've had those in front of them, and we've made sure to align all of the proposed investments with those assurances.
Okay, thank you. That helps, because I did have some questions about these assurances. On page 25, when we're talking about things that we're going to be doing in the schools to make our schools more safe, it's a lot of money. And I noticed one of them is for our water filling stations, which I know that we used a lot of the ESSERS 1 to already address. So can you help me understand, have we not gotten all the schools? Are we anticipating a lot more? Where does that go in regards to what we've already spent and to what we anticipate spending?
So through the chair, I'll speak to this one. We have completed the process. You can come on up, Chris, if you need to, if I get something wrong. We completed the process related to switching out all of our water coolers in our schools. This is for the reimbursement of that side of it. So being able to leverage ESSER 2 to be able to reimburse us from using any, whether it be capital money, any general fund money to make that a reality. This is going back. Because when we originally from ESSER 1, we spent ESSER 1 in like 30 seconds. And the front half of some of this ESSER 2 has been spent in that same time frame. So this is all just going back to reimburse that project.
Okay. And, oh.
That's right.
Very sorry. Mine's quick. I just want to make sure we're very clear and don't mislead the board. We put 5 to 10 the touchless refillable stations in every single school. That is done. That's the reimbursement. But there is a project to go back and retrofit all the other water fountains that are in the elementary schools. As you know, in most elementary schools, there's a water fountain in between each classroom. We're going back in to make sure that we do those as well. So there's a breakup of the project. The first one is to make sure that every school has their 5 to 7 in the common areas. Now we're going back into individual classrooms.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. And then on page 41, when we're talking about the project management office, I noticed that many of these have been repurposed positions. However, the director of grant project management, is that a new position that you're going to be creating? I just want to be clear because we've gotten a lot of questions about new positions being created within the district.
Yes, ma'am. That is a new position that will be created, and it will be funded through the ESSER dollars specifically. So when the ESSER funds sunset in 2024, that position will also sunset.
Okay, my last question is, we continually talk about engaging stakeholders and making sure they have a voice in this. Who are those stakeholders specifically, and how are we engaging them?
So we're required to engage the students, parents, family, community, business partners, anyone that has had any interest in our school system. We are going, as I mentioned, we have created a survey, and that is one way that we will be seeking input from our stakeholders. But our goal is to reach as many people, as many stakeholders, as many folks that are interested as possible. So we will not put limits on who can complete the survey, and we will push that out via our website.
Thank you.
And we also polled our principals and assistant principals as well. They gave us feedback to be able to identify these initiatives to present today.
Will we have access to that poll?
Yeah, we can get that.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. Member Snively?
I don't really have any questions as much as just to comment on the presentation. I thought it was very thorough, and I appreciate the accountability features at towards the end of the presentation, because I know a lot of community members are going to be asking about how we're making sure that these dollars that we're spending are effective, and reporting back to the community, reporting back to stakeholders and the board, and as to the impact that these dollars are actually having, and a measured impact these dollars are actually having at our school district level. And then thank you for the Mr. Washington making that recommendation to make sure that that's regularly reported, the progress that we're making with our struggling schools, as well as the progress that we're making with these ESSER funds on a regular basis. And I think that, I know we've talked about the suspended agenda a few times. We haven't seen it. I've asked my secretary to run down the last hard copy that we could get of the last suspended agenda the board has used, but I think what Mr. Washington is asking would probably be a good recommendation to add to the suspended agenda for the board meetings. So we'll, hopefully she'll be able to find the last copy that we've had of that, and we can bring it to the board meeting this afternoon, and Mr. Washington may want to make a motion to add it to the suspended agenda this afternoon. Maybe Mr. Porter could assist with that as well. So, but thank you for the presentation, the thorough presentation. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it on a regular basis as we navigate through these challenging waters that we have today. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's so well said. The suspended agenda was our vehicle to remind ourselves what we were talking about and what needs to be continually talked about. So I think that's a very, very prominent request that that we'll carry through. Thanks, Member Snively. Member Combs?
Thank you, Chair Gray. I have quite a few questions, but I don't want to take all the time, so I'll probably have to sit down with all of you to discuss this. I spent a lot of time when I received this, looking over it, tabbing, asking questions. Some of the things that I'd like to see, I appreciate all the time and the work and the effort that everyone's put forward. I really think the ESSER dashboard is great. I'd love to see some type of area where we can have teachers and stakeholders give advice or give feedback on ideas on things that we could spend the money, something that's live, that we're not just getting the principals or individual schools, but we're, engaging with the union and we're engaging with teachers and we're engaging with the community. I know for myself, I've already engaged with community members and asked them, where do you think? This is kind of turning something really bad into something that really can impact our district for decades to come. So I think it's really important that we look at every penny, and I really want to see much more engagement. I personally would like to go to some of the meetings. I would like to see what's happening, where we're spending money, and also to really look at that specific learning loss. I really want to see the details. Are we talking about early Saturday schools? What students are we impacting? And when we talk about I would like to also see a lot of money being spent on tangible things that 2 years down the road are still here. Books, novels. I'm glad that we're spending money on culturally sensitive books, but overall on computers, technology, things like that. So some of the questions that I have really are some of the things that will be here for 1 year and then gone. So just a couple of things that I saw that, for example, on page 36, when we're talking about, magnet program enhancements, what does that look like? And here we are at, prior to this meeting, we're talking about looking at, our magnet schools. Are they impactful? So I think we need to look at not only just for next year or 2 years, but where is the direction is this district going to, and where are we spending the money? Because we don't want to spend money on something and then all of a sudden we're changing our vision. Another part is page 37. I see that, we're looking at $7.5 million being spent on the external operator contract. What does that look like? Can we do it more efficiently? Are we spending it on computer programs that are, just here for a year or 2 years? So that's where I think it's going to be. I'm really glad to receive this information, but I really want to delve very deep. I want to be very engaged. I feel like we need to get teachers, parents, stakeholders, community members, different organizations that are involved, because this is something that could change, as I said, for decades, or 3 years later, we could be exactly where we are. And I also think if we can reclassify anything, and I want to be conservative, I would like to make sure that our fund budget or our fund balance remains strong and goes as high as we can. I think we can't just spend. I think we need to be really think about each penny that's spent. And if we're putting people into schools, what does that look like? Is that short term? We need to look at the long term. And some of the big items that are being spent here, I really want to go into delved into it deeper, like page 32. I see supplemental instructional software, almost $30 million on that. What is that? What does that look like? How does that impact our kids, our students long term? So those are the kinds of things that I really want to delve deep into. And as I said, I spent several hours on this. I will probably spend months, probably the next 3 years on this, and it's very important. Thank you.
And just sharing real quick, Ms. Brown, do you have teachers in that group that you're reaching out to? Because I heard the litany, the list.
Right. So we did the task force, no, but teachers will be a part of the input, yes.
Okay. So
yes, ma'am, absolutely. And I heard the working with the union, and absolutely we will engage the union.
Okay, thank you.
And then the other thing is, we know, when we look at our data and everything, that we have work to do with our ESE population. And there's a lot of things that we can provide our schools. I'm talking about, tangible things that can help long term for children. So I would like to see, more of that. I know you have that, but more of that really broken down into detail. And I think the most important thing is really to do a lot more engagement, because I think it's great that you had a huge cabinet and we've spent a lot of time, but I would have probably attended those meetings because that's how interested I am. And I think that other members, I think teachers would have engaged, even retired teachers. I think people know, they have an idea of what we need best in schools. And sometimes some people are so removed that they kind of forget what exactly we need, and every school is going to be a little bit different. Thank you.
Points well said. Thank you. Member Perez? Member Perez? Stephen? Is she there? Member Hahn, are you there? Yeah, Member Perez. Okay. Go ahead, Member Perez.
Okay.
I'm trying to get both of you, it looks like, but Member Perez is back on Teams. Go ahead, Member Perez.
Thank you for your time and effort that you've put into this presentation. I have two questions. In line with Member Combs' question, will this be part of the funding that the Finance Advisory Committee is following?
I mean, through the chair, the Financial Advisory Council Committee, Citizens Financial Advisory Council Committee can look at any of our finances. So this is something we can continue to keep in front of them and provide updates so they stay abreast of how we're spending every dollar and every cent, and seek any type of additional recommendation that may come down. So we're going to be fully transparent with every one of our dollars, and we have no problem making that a part of the conversation.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. And also on page 27, with the bandwidth increase, I noticed that we don't have it for the 23-24 school year. And it's obvious, with the increase in the economy, understanding that we have students that still continue not to have access to technology or internet. Why the cutoff at the 23-24 school year?
So here with the internet bandwidth, this is all about infrastructure within all of our schools, and to make certain, because right now, I believe about 3 to 5 years ago, there was some infrastructure that was put into some of our schools, and openly that current infrastructure doesn't allow us to be efficient. So, what Jeremy and his team have really identified are areas that need immediate concentration, and we believe we can do it in a two-year time frame to be able to blitz our schools and to put the necessary fibers, connectivity, so that we can work in a fluent situation. Openly we have a number of our, all the Wi-Fi hotspots that were put in throughout this district. I believe there are over 14,000 currently. We're going to have to be able to replace those starting immediately because they've been inefficient. So this is just part of the process where our teachers don't continuously get kicked off, and there's really continued communication with not only within each structure but also between the district and each school, so that our kids can continue to compete.
Awesome. Okay. Just trying to get our kids back, to their levels, especially after learning loss during COVID, and we don't know what it's going to look like, this fall. So thank you for that. Yes, ma'am. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Member Perez. And Member Hahn?
Thank you, Member Gray. First, thank you to Ms. Brown and her team for a wonderful presentation this morning. First, I'm glad to see a collaborative effort approach that you're taking and working with division leads. I'm sure those division leads, whether they're, overseas schools or other areas of our organization, are drilling down to their next level, to principals and teachers to get their input. That's, what's needed, as Member Combs added. I also am really excited for the launch of the dashboard.
I bet you are.
I've had a few sneak peeks over the last couple weeks, and Jeremy has really done a phenomenal job on this dashboard. So I know the public is going to be excited to see it. I want to thank the superintendent for putting action steps to my request for this dashboard. a few months ago, and for Jeremy and his team for their creation of it. And I don't know when you're going to go live with it, but it's very important to our community to know exactly how spending is occurring with this amount of money. I'm also glad to see that it was mapped to the strategic plan, because that's essential for us to move the needle for our students. And the emphasis on at-risk students, that will certainly have a huge impact on specifically our 39 struggling schools, but also continue the money that you're spending and the ways that you're spending it will continue to support all schools across our district. And the parent engagement piece, I was glad to see, like Member Washington and other school board members said this morning, it's so essential to student outcomes. Mental health, it's an area that Member Perez has been championing. The only thing I would like to add to that is, and I've had this conversation with the superintendent around telemental health. One thing I do hear from constituents, parents and students, is the process to get services. You have to go through a guidance counselor or a social worker, and sometimes there's a 2-week lag before services can be received. And the access or lack of on weekends, evenings, holidays, summer, telemental health would knock down those barriers I just described and provide immediate access for our students to get mental health. They would have the tele number. They would be able to call when they're in crisis. What we know about anybody who's having a mental health crisis, it can escalate rather quickly. Right. So even waiting 24 hours sometimes is detrimental to the mental health of an adult or a child. And if with the use of the telemental health, which some of these are free services because they get reimbursed through insurance and federal dollars, they can turn around within 24 hours and generate the report to the school. So that way then the guidance counselors and the social workers can now follow up with the students. So I would just, we talk about being innovative. I would just like some of these barriers that I'm hearing about from constituents knocked down, and maybe the ESSERS money is something that can create that for our students, and be long sustaining, like Ms. Combs said. Other than that, I do appreciate all the information. Obviously, this should probably be on the suspended agenda if we move in that direction, because it's something that we all need to be updated on rather frequently, and make sure that we're still on track with our financial plan to make sure that this district is heading in a healthier fiscal direction. Thank you.
Well said, Member Hahn, and I just will piggyback on some of the comments. I'm very relieved, and I know the constituents will be, the children. Principals especially will be relieved to see that their actual personality of their schools will be returned to them. And we're talking the arts, music. We're also talking excellent diverse libraries. We're also talking the dual language, which is the ELL population. So, we're expanding diversity tremendously with a lot of these initiatives. And I had a question to the diversity when we mentioned special populations on page 19. So are we engaging Monica Vera-Tirado in terms of special populations? The question also, the adjunct is, how much is she engaged with the execution of some of these goals as it relates to diversity? Yeah, Mrs. Brown, thanks.
Yes, ma'am. She is absolutely involved as a member of the cabinet. She's at every one of our task force meetings whenever she can be there, and she's even called in before when she's been out to participate in the task force meetings. But she also works very closely, Dr. Vera-Tirado works closely with the ELL Executive Director, Ms. Elena Garcia. She also will be working very closely, will continue working closely with Kim Workman with ESC populations, and she also avails herself to Ms. McCrae as we work with our students who are at risk academically and may have some other needs. So to your question, how involved is Ms. Vera-Tirado, Dr. Vera-Tirado? She's extremely involved.
Okay, that's good to know, because as I said to her and to Superintendent Davis, I would like our district to be the #1 diversity district in the nation, and paying attention to that. And thank you, Lisa, for getting all these grants, and Mr. Connor for extending the African American Task Force. All these are initiatives that will make our schools represent the actual populations that we're serving. And that is, Superintendent Davis, and this is tipping the hat to you as well for affording this replication of the school population. We're giving schools back their personality, and getting back to anything other than one other thing, and then I'm going to be done. Yes, Mrs. Brown, we worked on the trauma-based schools, and actually Member Perez, I believe Member Hahn was there. We had a workshop, kind of like a workshop on trauma-based schools. We brought in the National Dropout Prevention Center, a lot of footwork done with one school. Do you have a vision, and perhaps Superintendent Davis may say something, at moving forward, because probably more than 63% of our students have had adverse childhood experiences, forms of trauma, especially after COVID. So where are we at with that? I see the list. Do we have anything in particular, or are we just going to say that's the end, Palm River Elementary, we're done with that program?
So we have recently had a meeting with Mr. Daggett, Todd Daggett,
Good.
National Dropout Prevention. And I have introduced him to Ms. Bays, who will now be overseeing student services, who will now really take on and figure out ways that we can expand more of the training and more of the work with the National Dropout Prevention organization, so that we are able to fully address the traumatic experiences, adverse childhood experiences that have occurred in our students since we've been involved with, been in the pandemic. So yes, we will continue to explore ways that we can work with the National Dropout Prevention Organization and customize specifically to meet the needs of our students and our community. So the answer to your question is yes, ma'am. Ms. Bays will be working with them and have already reached out and been connected. And we will continue to provide training to our student services team members around trauma as well, so that they're a resource within each of our schools every day to address the needs of our students as it relates to any type of traumatic experience.
That's a great answer, and I chuckle, Ms. Bays, because you and I both chuckled when we see all the hats that you now have to wear, and we just gave you another one. I think I gave her a few the other day. Last, Mr. PE, former coach. Why is there only 0.15 amount of money given in your plan to health and PE? You don't have to answer that now. I'll get on to you later.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
So Ashley Capucci, our supervisor of physical education and health, is instrumental in working with identifying what those initiatives should be. Obviously, we have the CDC grant right now and that we're in the midst of. So just trying to make sure that we're focused on academic learning loss as a part of the requirements of the grant, and seeing where we can infuse that academic recovery through physical education is kind of the goal there. So she's on top of it, and she works closely with me.
And Ashley does a really good job making certain that we help her with her desires to be able to expand this health mentality initiative, physical education every single day within our school district. So, but with the other CDC grant, we're just leveraging those fundings. If there's a need for us to rethink and relook at this to be able to expand this awareness, we definitely will.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. Thank you, Mr. Connor, for getting on to Superintendent Davis. And we'll probably give it to Ms. Kim Bays, another hat. Just
right.
kidding.
She's so happy she had to deal with 240 schools. Just kidding.
Yeah. Board.
Sue.
Yeah.
Super
poor Sue. I haven't gotten to her yet either. But board members, I think we have a lot to look forward to. I hope that you're excited. Not the dashboard. any final thoughts? I think we have a few minutes. Member Vaughn, I know you wanted a topic to discuss. Curiosity, what would you like to discuss? We only have a few minutes, but every minute counts.
Thank you. Superintendent Davis, when are we going to have the guidelines? I mean, I know there's a big mask conversation, and we'll talk about that later, but when are we going to have the guidelines and understanding of the other safeguards or COVID things that we're enacting with the schools? I know Member Snively and I have asked for months about quarantine information and what it's going to look like aside from the mask piece of how we're going to be responsive and keep our students safe. So when are we as a board going to have the understanding of, aside from the mask, the other guidelines that are going to be available for school?
Sure. If you go and I sent you a copy about a week or 2 weeks ago related to the reopening plan. It has all those elements in there. So we will strengthen that. That should be going out by the end of this week. We got the information back from TGH and the same time from Zelling and Communications. We had one more look at it as of yesterday, and then we'll send it out by the end of the week. Going to be the final product. But if you can just go back and revert, and I know it may be a copy that we've had as a rough draft. I'll send you the updated version so you can put your eyes on it. And if this evening need to be able to speak about what that will look like. I will tell you, from quarantine, when we talk about a number of school districts around the state of Florida, around the nation, a lot of school districts are not offering the remote learning side of the work, which means that the quarantine process for instruction may look a little bit different to have an accessibility to a teacher. This is why one of the big pushes in the ESSER grant funding is to make sure we offer virtual tutorials and tutoring 24/7 during the day. So if anyone needs to get, they get their assignments on Canvas, or they're assigned them through their consumables or their online texts, that if they need any additional assistance out during the days in which they may be out, then they can have that connectivity with an individual that is certified to be able to teach and help them be successful. We will, as it relates to quarantine, as of right now, we've historically used the 10-day quarantine for those who have been impacted in a direct manner. That will transition. We will go back and follow CDC recommendations, CDC guideline recommendations related to the 7 days, meaning that after day 6, that if you do prove that you have a negative COVID assessment, and you provide that documentation, then you're able to return on the 8th day, in which we're just cutting some days in half. So, and in addition to that, those individuals who are in direct contact and have been vaccinated, that we do have the availability to allow them to prove they have been vaccinated, and then those individuals would not and do not have the need to quarantine. So we'll continue to make certain that vaccinations is continue to be an offering, and we support in that process.
Is that because we have established that vaccines make it impossible for you to transmit or carry or get COVID?
We're just following the CDC guidelines in that recommendation in that process.
That recommendation. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Superintendent Davis, you may want to share what the governor has shared this morning. Was it Governor DeSantis? Because it's going to be part of the meeting tonight.
Yes, ma'am. So openly, I know that there's been a lot of conversations related to mask. So this evening we'll be able to have, I guess, a number of speakers are coming to speak pro-mask, and those who want us to continue to wear them, and those who want us to continue to make them optional. I'm being very clear with my stance as superintendent that masks will be optional moving in the 21-22 school year. And in that question, there was one of the local news stations reached out to Tallahassee to ask whether or not what would happen if a school district moved in the direction to mandate masks. And openly, the governor's office, and we'll make certain that you have accessibility through our communications, openly said that they would take immediate action related to a special session to make certain that masks continue to be a choice for parents. I do believe that we will continue to work with our local medical experts, but as we move forward for the 21-22 school year, it will be optional and a choice for our parents as we move forward.
Thank you. Board members, I know it's time for you to take a mental rest. And we are adjourned. Thanks for your patience. Oh, I'm sorry. Member Snively, did you want to say something?
Just wanted to mention that
Sit down.
No, really, it's just information only. July 15th was when that was sent to us, Member Vaughn, if you want to check your emails for that. And I appreciate that the fact you have a quarantine resource center, a link to that for our parents to be able to access quarantine information, because it could differ from situation to situation. And I think that's what parents are very concerned about.
No, that's a good
Thank you.
And I'll send the updated today.
Okay. We are adjourned.